Megan.
Ken.
Sheila.
It's a triangle. It's so fun to have Ken back.
Yeah, and not really as a guest on the hot seat.
Yeah.
Just
which do you like better?
participating.
Do you like being the one answering the questions or asking the questions? Because we're going to make you do both today.
I like the discussion.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
I just like the conversation.
Oh, well, we enjoy having you here.
Thanks. Yeah, it's my pleasure.
Yeah, so I had an idea for kind of in the past, Sheila, you and I have done like a recap or we've done like what's coming for the next year. And I thought, why don't we do frequently asked questions? Because we do get many of them.
Yeah.
And it was a cool exercise, actually, to go back and see what are these ones that we get over and over again. All I really had to do was look at some of my email templates and be like, what am I always answering? Or just things that happen literally in conversation on the street all the time, which I really appreciate about the community. But putting it out there in a way that's a little bit more organized, emphasis on a little bit, I thought might be beneficial.
Yeah.
So thank you both for participating.
Yeah.
And Sheila, do you want to give like as many of a recap as you can for some of the things that people should expect to hear in this episode?
We covered everything from how do you spell HDSA? What does it mean? Why are we here? What do we do? What don't we do? Which there's a lot of assumptions around that too. And just, all around, what is our place here in the historic downtown district? And great conversations on so many topics. We covered a lot.
We did. It's a longer episode, but I think it actually is really a good picture of the work that we do, because these are just the frequently asked questions. And it takes us over an hour to get through just those things.
Yeah.
And the work is just so expansive. So I think this episode is going to be full of a lot of really interesting information.
Yeah.
And also kind of opportunities to ask more if you want, or get involved more if you'd like.
And I think it also may contrast, like you said, Megan, we've had similar types of discussions in the past. I think this conversation specifically reflects how we have grown as an organization.
Yeah.
There is a lot more attention in data. We're going to say the word data a lot. We're going to throw a lot of numbers at the audience. But I think that is telling to where we're at as an organization versus where we have been a year, 2 years, 3 years ago. So I think it's really exposing.
Yeah. Ken, what, if anything, do you think people might find surprising that we covered?
I think the numbers are going to be surprising.
I was surprised.
Yeah, so are we. and it's because, they're reflective of stories that we didn't hear. And so they were surprising to us. I think that finding out who we're not and who we are will also be surprising and helpful for people to understand our place and why we exist and the good work that we do.
Yeah.
And I think on that note, to be fair, for those who might be like, oh, I'm surprised that is who HDSA is. I thought they were fill in the blank. HDSA has been known for a lot of different things over the years. And as a recently accredited Main Street community with the actual program to follow, it's going to look different in every community depending on the community needs. But it gives you that instruction manual of like, this is how you can have the most successful, thriving, holistic downtown. And that's the change that you've been seeing over the last few years that we've been honestly trying to figure out and implement as best as we can. And that has looked like a lot of like looking back over what we have done, what's good that we want to keep, what's having an impact that we want to keep. How can we figure out what that impact is? And now really driving our work forward to meet those objectives, I think is what we have started to do, but we're actually coming into that space. So it would make sense that somebody might be surprised or feel like HDSA is not what I thought that it was, or looks really different than what it looked like even a couple years ago. So I think that's a fair assessment. What do you think about that?
I think so. Yeah.
Jinx.
Jinx again.
You owe me a yogurt.
Happy to oblige.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Well, I hope everybody enjoys the episode. Ask us any other questions that you have.
Yeah, and we'll do a follow-up session because I also just thought of another question that we have not answered, which is that we are not the Historical Society.
Oh,
that's true.
duh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, Sheila, for
always
throwing
more
that in there.
to
They
explore
are
and
another
question.
nonprofit partner that we work with.
Yes.
Yeah, good one. I'm glad that you threw that in there last minute.
Yeah.
All right. Well, enjoy the episode, everyone.
Have fun.
Ken,
Sheila.
Aw.
do you feel left out, Megan?
No, not really.
We're all in cozy wear because
right.
it is cold and raining outside.
It is.
It is blistering.
Dark.
Yeah, daylight savings, not a fan. Or standard time, not a fan.
Definitely not a fan.
I'm not a fan of daylight savings because otherwise you wouldn't know the difference. It would just be time.
You would just be miserable and you wouldn't know it.
It would just be that gentle continuum. But, daylight savings like disturbs everything. And
Right.
I have always had a hatred for daylight savings since having children.
Why?
When they're little, everyone's like, oh, you get an extra hour of sleep. No. As a parent of littles, you get nothing. You get children that wake up at 4 a.m. instead of 5 a.m. for several weeks, and then they're falling apart at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And it wrecks
Yeah, get rid
like
of it.
a month of your life.
I feel like pet parents go through the same thing because cats and dogs are like, what do you mean dinner's not ready yet? Or
Yeah.
let's wake up and have breakfast at 5 a.m.
Tiger was sitting in the kitchen like, empty bowl.
Yeah.
What's
Hello.
going on here?
Customer service is terrible today.
These are all things that Ben Franklin did not think through when he proposed
Exactly.
this.
Yeah.
Exactly. But we'll forgive him for all of his other contributions, I suppose.
It's also a classic example of how we don't change stuff that should be changed
That is
because
true.
some guy said it was a good idea. It's like,
Yep.
okay, it's been hundreds of years.
Yeah.
Let's adapt.
People change.
We have the data and everything that shows people don't adapt well to
to change.
daylight savings. No daylight savings. Like there's
That is true.
accidents that happen.
Yeah.
And
More accidents happen the Monday after.
anyway, thank you for coming to my TED Talk about daylight savings.
I feel like everyone has such a passionate opinion about daylight savings.
Yeah, tell us what yours are. Put them somewhere, comments or send us an email, whatever. It'd be interesting to hear. How do you feel about daylight savings?
Right.
We did ask though for questions for today's episode, which is all
Yes.
frequently asked questions. In the past, we've done like a recap or looking forward. What can you expect from HDSA? Kind of at the end of the year. So this time we thought, let's put in some of the questions that we get from people often and just make a conversation out of that. So,
Right. And that's why we have Ken today as the president,
The board president of the HDSA.
Yeah. So that we
Poor
can
Ken.
get all of these hard questions are going
Lucky
your way,
Ken.
Ken.
No, I love the job.
Yeah.
But I can start off the questions.
Sure.
And so this one, Megan, will be for you.
Okay.
So we'll start off with the basics.
I hope I know the answer to the basic
How do you
question.
spell HDSA?
What does HDSA stand for?
In what language?
Maybe we should answer that.
Yeah.
HDSA stands for the Historic Downtown Snohomish Association.
All right.
Ding,
And
ding,
is
Five for you.
the HDSA a merchant association?
That is a great question. And I would say people probably don't just come out and ask that question, but they assume that we are because of the sort of work that we do. So I will answer it by saying, no, we are not a merchant association, but we do serve businesses. Economic vitality is one of the 4 pillars of the Main Street model, which we are a Main Street community. So that's technically our, I don't know, what's the structure or the foundation of the work that we do is rooted in being a Main Street program. So yes, we're not a merchant association. So Ken, we've established that that's what we are not. How would you describe who is HDSA? What do we actually do?
Sure. I thought that for this answer, I would just read our mission.
Oh, yeah.
So people really know what it is that we
What a novel idea.
do. So our mission is to support those who live, work, and play in the downtown historic district through visionary leadership, preservation-focused efforts, outreach, and fostering community in the heart and soul of the city of Snohomish. We have a specific kind of geography that we focus on, which is the historic downtown, but we also touch those kind of neighboring businesses and streets as well. But as far as what we do, the answer really depends based on what the needs are and what our resources and capabilities and capacity are to meet those needs.
Amen on that second half.
Yeah, I have learned over the past year and a half that like my desires to do work for our downtown are endless, but our ability to meet those needs really is fixed.
Yeah.
And sometimes we have more resources than at other times, and so the work that we do always has to match that. But I thought it would be good to just talk a little bit about what we have done this year that stands out, at least to me. One of the most obvious is our public safety campaign this year. I love seeing at the intersections families and individuals, whether old or young, carry those flags across the street.
It's the best.
I love
I see
it.
everybody use those.
Yeah, I use them, and then Trent and I's favorite hobby is to redistribute it when we see a gap.
Thank you for making that one of your favorite hobbies.
It's the little things we can do for the city.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love those flags.
I do too. And they became a collector item, I swear, this summer because like more than 50% of them went missing.
Oh no.
Yeah, people wanted to keep one at home.
I mean, we got to promote safety everywhere, right? So I guess that's the price we have to pay on that one.
That's right.
It's just doing the work,
But parents, if you happen to see one of those at home, we would love it back. You can just bring it down and put it in the little
No
canister.
questions asked.
Yeah. We appreciate you doing that. So I really am proud of the work that was done this year around public safety. Something else that is kind of behind the scenes is working with businesses, though, in building relationships and connections with both the fire department as well as with our community police officer, Deputy Taylor Davis, and helping businesses and people just feel safe and that they have the resources that they need.
Yeah.
So that's been impactful for people who live, work, and play here. The beautiful mural. There's that space that every year just gets a new mural, and it represents Snohomish. And so that's something that beautifies our town. And this year's mural, I think in particular, just the colors,
It's really
the
cool.
vibrancy, it's just so gorgeous. I love it. Would love to see more of that. This summer, we also did a parking challenge, which I'll talk about a little bit later on. But that really helped to alleviate some parking congestion and helped those of us who participated feel like we can do something to make a difference today instead of waiting on others to make something happen. We as an organization made something happen that made a difference for our businesses and our visitors. We have a number of events that we do downtown, Pride and Winterfest. Those are things that help everybody feel like they have a place and a sense of belonging in our downtown that wouldn't happen really without us. And those are two special occasions for individuals and families to come together and really build core memories with each other and with our city. And it becomes community at that point.
I think another event that we see that at really tangibly is the tree lighting.
Oh, yes.
That's
Love
like
it.
my favorite. I get goosebumps every time, and I might shed a tiny tear. Maybe once. But like, what other time do you see people all centered together, singing together?
Yeah.
When they're like not at a concert,
Yeah.
It's just so sweet and endearing and
It's a very joyous occasion.
yeah. And like, you don't know anything about the person standing next to you, but you're all there to enjoy something together. I think that's just what like is so great about all of our events is that it brings together so many different people over one communal thing.
Speaking of singing, I hadn't really thought about this, but we did our first hoedown.
Oh
yeah,
This
that's
year.
true.
So there was some dancing involved,
Yes.
in that. And that was during Klahaya Days. And so these events that bring people together, they build relationships, they strengthen families and ties with each other. And that's part of what we do.
Yeah.
Also, I'm proud of our wine walks.
Thank you.
And that bring people in and build those relationships and connections with each other as well as with the shops that host those. And so that's an important part of our business community's experience here. And then we also have taken a lot of strides this year with storytelling through data.
Mm.
No one will tell our story for us. And the historic downtown district, it's the heart, it's the soul, and it's the backbone of Snohomish. And we live and work in a beautiful place, and we get to tell that story. So the HDSA does that. No one else is going to really do any of that. But as I said, what we do is based on needs and resources, and we could really do so much more if we had the resources to do them. We're excited about the work ahead of us for 2026, and we want to make sure that our dreams can be achieved. And so follow us on social media and sign up for our newsletters, and you'll see volunteer opportunities to support specific work that may be new for 2026, things that we would love to see happen, things that we would love to see funded to beautify our downtown and help this help the experiences that people have here be memorable forever.
I think one of the key things that I heard this year through one of our Main Street leadership trainings was from a long-time Main Streeter, Norma. And I think she even reiterated this when she was a guest on our podcast. And she said, we don't do the work for you, we do the work with you. And it's everybody's downtown, and making it the place that we want it to be is really something that we all need to do together. HDSA doesn't exist to just deliver all of the things. You know, it's a group effort. We are primarily volunteer led and powered. And the reason for that is because we want it to be your downtown. We want your care and your investment, and that you're participating in what's going on, so that you have even more of a deeper sense of belonging and ownership in your community. So,
and it doesn't take a lot. I feel like sometimes people get intimidated with, joining an organization or something, thinking that, oh, you have to be all in, like this is going to be half your life now is this. But I encourage everyone to, even if it's an hour a month that you are volunteering, at our events, like for Pride, we always need a ton of volunteers, but you could be there for 2 hours for, one each month doing something, and the little things add up.
Yeah.
And I think the little things also snowballs into the big things, because you start developing relationships, like you said, like at these events, right? And then you want to invest more and more into it. But don't be afraid, even if it's, only 1 hour that you have to spare and spend and contribute, that is still a very valuable hour for us as an organization.
And I think what you're touching on too is for the people that are volunteering, because so many things can come of that. I mean, like, we're all friends in this room.
Yeah.
And this business was, kind of born out of HDSA, along with all of Trent's incredible efforts. But there was so many connections that happened, that were rooted there.
Yeah.
And it's just really powerful, the impact that it can have on you, directly on your life in ways that you might not even know. Like, there's opportunities just waiting for you.
Exactly.
Through volunteering. It's actually pretty amazing. So, Sheila, speaking of that, you've been in HDSA in multiple capacities for a while now.
Yeah, time flies when you're having fun.
I know you started as a wine walk volunteer and helping with the zombie walk, right?
Yep.
And now you are the wine walk chair. You've served as a board member in those times.
Yeah.
And you are a co-partner of a new downtown business. All that has happened in how many years? What, 5, 6?
Yeah, I think less than 5, actually, because I think, we got started with HDSA shortly after COVID, when they were bringing a zombie walk back, right, after COVID. And it snowballed, just like I said, started by helping Trent out, because Trent signed up to volunteer at HDSA. And before you know it, we were both board members and chairing the wine walk. And it's been a lot of fun getting to be involved in multiple capacities. And it's been nice that being part of an organization that is also flexible with how much I'm able to give,
or how much you want to give.
Exactly.
At a given time.
Exactly. There were times in my life where I was able to give more into HDSA, so I was able to take on more positions. And as things change, I'm still able to be involved in whatever capacity I can. which I think is really nice.
Yeah. So from seeing all of those different things and the time that you've been here and having so many things happen, what do you think it would be like without HDSA in Snohomish?
I feel like that thought comes across once in a while, right? You're like, existentially, why are we here? I think the biggest thing that we would lose is I like to think of HDSA as this funnel where we are able to represent a lot of different demographics that work, play, and live in downtown, right? We've talked about the merchants, how we become an advocate for them and we can, centralize a lot of their feedback and use that as a factor on how we prioritize our work. But not only merchants, but we do that for people that own property in the historic district. We do that for the people who just come and visit, right? Through our events, we are able to get feedback of like, hey, you as someone who comes here maybe once a month, what would you like to see? And also the residents in the historic district too. So I feel like if we didn't have HDSA, it would be one less avenue to kind of centralize and reconcile what might be competing needs or different opinions. If there is no one to be able to survey the wider demographic and kind of narrow down of like, okay, what can we do with the resources that we do have? And I think the other big part of that funnel is that the connection that HDSA as an organization have with people like the city, you guys have standing relationships with them and being able to communicate, hey, this is what, the public wants or needs, desires, and working with the city on how can we make whatever improvements happen. I think not having that would be more work on the city's part to have to listen to these, additional hundreds or thousands of voices to consider. So I think HDSA is very much like a funnel and a megaphone in that aspect. So not having HDSA would mean we lose that.
I like that perspective and the analogy of the funnel.
Feels like that, doesn't it? It's all coming.
Yeah. We're trying to just like focus it in and then put something out there.
But you need that, right? Yeah. Because sometimes it's only the loudest voices that gets heard and not maybe the quantity. And with us having relationships with merchants and landlords, like we do try to survey a very wide spread of people, and being able to weigh those things, I think, is another advantage that we're able to have in HDSA.
When considering all of those audiences as well, because one can't really thrive without the other.
Yeah.
Like the visitors are just as important as the residents in different ways.
Yeah.
But they kind of might want different things. And the businesses depend on both of those groups coming here. Businesses also depend on the city and their landlords. I heard one of our businesses recently say, your landlord is really one of your greatest business partners. And it's so true. Like if you don't have a great relationship
100%.
with your landlord and you don't have them as kind of, on your team for your business succeeding, it's just gonna be that much harder.
Yeah.
So having one organization that understands all of those things and is working towards cultivating those relationships for this great purpose of having a downtown is, no one else is doing that. It's all siloed into all these different places.
Exactly. And I think something that also bubbled up as we were talking with the fire department and the police earlier this year is that the historic district being historic has certain challenges too.
Yeah.
That I think if you were looking at a whole city, you might not realize or have dedicated resources or attention to certain things and certain challenges that a historic district has. And because our focus is predominantly that, we can actually focus on it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Good answer, Sheila.
Oh, thank you. Totally came up with that on my own.
It was a beautiful one.
Megan, you've also mentioned that we are a nationally accredited organization now with Main Street America. Can you talk more about what that means?
Yes, and I will clarify just for the sake of being accurate. There is a national program, which we are an affiliate of, Main Street America.
Thank you.
There's Washington State Main Street Program, and that is where we hold our accreditation. And I've talked about this a little bit on the podcast before, but essentially there are certain requirements that you have to meet to be accredited. And then there's a threshold, that's for an affiliate, which is, hey, we have camera now, so I can actually
for
demonstrate.
once you can do that.
So we're kind of, here when you're an affiliate, there's still standards to be met, things you're supposed to achieve,
Mhm.
and then accreditation is kind of up here. So there's a pretty big gap that you have to fill. But essentially, it means having an effective program. It means that you are like all of those stakeholders we were just talking about, that you have relationships with all of
Mhm.
those groups, and that your work is basically foundational in impacting the people that make up this place.
Mhm.
Without the people, it's just old buildings, which are cool and we love them and we want to preserve them, but they're nothing without the things that happen down here. And a Main Street, any program is people focused. You're focused on the experiences that people have, the relationships that they're building with each other, that they have a sense of belonging.
Mhm.
So having that accreditation, basically just you are accounting for how you're considering all of those things, and that you have a dedicated program to achieve meaningful work.
Mhm.
Once you become accredited, Washington State has a really cool program. It's not in all of the states. It's not a national, it
Mhm.
doesn't mean that if you're accredited nationally that everybody gets this or anything like that. But it's basically a tax redirection program. It's called the
Mhm.
Main Street Tax Credit Incentive Program. And it allows any Washington State business to redirect their B&O tax dollars in their
Mhm.
own community. We then, because we're proven and we're showing that we're being good stewards of this money and that we're doing good work, and we are, in fact, reinvesting into our community,
Mhm.
we're eligible to receive those in the form of donations. And that powers the work that we're doing. So it's actually really cool. It's, like I said, not every state has it. So
Mhm.
we're lucky to have that here. But it's really empowering for businesses, especially in their own community. You're
Mhm.
paying it anyway. So you can either float it off to Olympia and good luck. Hopefully they do something well with it. Or you can see exactly how it's being used and influence how it's being used. Like we said before, everyone should be part of this work. And if you are on the inner workings, you not only get to put your money to work, but you get to
Mhm.
put it to work where you think it should go. So
Yeah.
that's really, it's just kind of that mini ecosystem, right? Everything takes care of itself here so that you can be self-sustainable. Every community knows exactly what they need. So that's kind of one of the special benefits of the
Mhm.
Washington State program.
And say that acronym again, because I think a lot of us use it and not,
Not
it just
knowing what it
rolls off your tongue at this
represents.
point, right?
MSTCIP.
There you go.
Yeah. But maybe I could add just a little bit more to the MSTCIP
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
program because I'm a business owner.
Yeah.
And
Of the best yogurt shop ever.
thanks, Sheila. I happen to agree. I definitely take advantage of this program. And to your point, Megan, like I have to pay B&O taxes regardless. And so I can choose to either send my B&O taxes to my community where they're going to be influencing my business
Mm-hmm.
and the experience that I and my family and our community have, or I can send them hours down south, to Olympia to do I will never know what
Yeah.
because there is zero accountability.
Yeah, we literally don't know
Yeah.
what they put B&O taxes towards.
And they will never tell us.
Yeah.
But I do think it's brilliant that our state government
Mhm.
believes enough in downtowns
Yeah.
to find a way to have businesses essentially fund their downtown.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because the work that we do, someone needs to do it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And if we don't do it, actually, no one will. That's just proven. No one is going to do the work that we do. And we know financially that the work that we do has a very positive return on the businesses here. Not just the businesses, but the community, the
Mhm.
lives of the people who live, work, and play here. We know that this is the most valuable part of Snohomish.
Mhm.
And so investing your B&O tax dollars right into your downtown is only going to make your business, your property, more valuable.
Mhm.
And, people might not love 100% of the work that we do, but being a part of it and directing that work is something that all of us have the opportunity to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when you become a shareholder of a company, you actually can vote.
Yeah.
You might not like, what Coca-Cola does or Nike, but you have no say until you actually own a part of it. And although we love to listen and we will listen to everyone, when businesses participate in their own community, it gives them a real opportunity to benefit their downtown and to have more of a say in what happens here.
Yeah.
And so I just want to take advantage and invite, others to investigate this and to then invest. They have to pay their taxes anyways. What's beautiful about this is that depending on your tax rate, you actually will probably make money by donating to the MSTCIP because you get that 75% tax credit. And then if your marginal tax rate at the federal level is 25% or higher, it either, flat, it's either flat or you're going to make money. And so it is a literal no-brainer to participate in this program because you'll make money and you'll be sending your dollars to your own community and making it better for you and for everyone else around you.
Wow.
Well
There
said.
it is.
Yeah.
Could not have put a better bow on that.
I know. You say things so eloquently. I'm over here with just trying to get the words out in some way or another.
You did great.
So on a slightly different topic then, one of the other questions that I feel like we get a lot is, what is the difference between us and the city? Like, are we part of the city government, or, are we just doing what the city tells us to? So, who actually runs things around here?
Yeah, I mean, it's a compilation of many people. And I think HDSA, like we've talked about before, we're, like you put it, a funnel, or we're that centric hub on a wheel with all of the spokes of all the people that touch the downtown community. The city in particular, we advocate to the city for things that impact our downtown. It is not the other way around. We don't work for the city. We don't try to influence any sort of agenda that they have or anything like that. Nobody knows the downtown like we do.
Yeah, we have our own vision,
Yeah.
our own mission.
The city is a critical partner. We need them to share that vision with us and support us in accomplishing what it is that we want to do. So having those relationships is really important. One thing that I think gets asked a lot, or is just assumed, is that the city does events, the downtown events. And I mean, that's a fair assumption. Like, I can't tell you that before I got involved in this job that I knew that the chamber did the car show. It was the car show, and it was down the street from my house, and we knew it was going on, so we would go. And if I had paid attention to banners and signs, and I might have known, like, I would pick up more on sponsors than I would on the fact that it was actually put on by the chamber. And so I think the assumption is that if it's happening in a city, it must be the city that's putting on the event. And in some places that's true. And even with some events we have here, like the Christmas tree lighting is something that we partner with the city on. So they are actually helping to facilitate that. They did Dia de los Muertos this year. They've done Holy the last couple of years.
Right.
And then some of the other events that we see that they do are usually kind of to give more access to the city for the residents. Like they do things that are around public works projects or planning department projects.
The tree day.
Yeah.
Oh,
Arbor Day.
Arbor Day.
Yeah. And that was also talking about city projects. So that's, I think, kind of a different feel. But these large community events that we see where there's a car show or Winterfest or Pride or Klahaya Days, these are all individual community organizations, all of them nonprofits, I'm pretty sure. So the city is not actually putting that on for anybody. They have a set of rules. It's like, here's the law and the procedures that you need to follow so that we'll give you your special event permit so that you can safely execute this thing. And please follow all of these rules and fill out all of these reports and give us your safety plan and all of the things. So their job is primarily to keep downtown safe, keep the citizens safe, make sure that we have traffic flowing the way it needs to flow or close down where it needs to be closed down. They set those rules, but they are not putting on Pride. They are not putting on the Klahaya Days parade or the car show. They're making sure that those organizations are doing that well. That's not to say, again,
Or
that
the
they're
Easter
not
parade.
a partner. Oh, yeah, Easter
Yeah.
parade. Thank you. Sorry, Hyades. I forgot about that one. There's just so many. There's
So
other
many
ones I'm sure
parades.
I'm not remembering either.
But that makes sense, right? The city, because it needs to run the city.
Well,
There's
and it's a small city.
it is.
They
and
don't have the staff. They hardly have
exactly
the staff capacity to
to do what
just
they need.
manage the groups doing
Right.
the events, you know?
Right? When we chatted with Tim Cross a couple months ago, it was
Yeah.
surprising to me just like how many people are actually employed in public work.
How few people.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
the right
that's
word.
true. How few, not how many. To maintain all of the roads that we have and
Yeah.
all of the utilities that we have around here. So it's a big task to just keep the day-to-day running.
Yeah.
That, anything that they do that is quote unquote fun on top of that is a plus, right? A cherry on top.
Right.
But we cannot expect the city to not only give us, the foundation, but also do all of this other
Well, and how would
additional
they
stuff.
fairly decide what that is?
Exactly.
Like, imagine the Easter parade that has been considered a religious holiday for a
Mhm.
long time, whether you view it that way now or not. How would a city put on
Exactly.
the Easter
Yeah,
parade? You
they
know?
wouldn't be able to.
Yeah. And then how would they make it fair so that they're
Mhm.
doing, other events? So I think that's why it kind of it's good to kind of set the record straight that the city is not actually.
They
Mhm.
don't decide who, what events happen, right?
And
Mhm.
and on that note as well, like they couldn't really tell you that you can't do an event.
Exactly.
Like as long as you're following the procedures like everybody else, you meet the requirements for your special event permit and then you execute your
Yep.
event well. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Welcome back next year.
It's this thing called the Constitution, right? This
Is it the freedom of speech or
and
something like
and
that?
the freedom of assembly,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Those two
Those
things in the
important
First
things.
Amendment.
Yeah.
Exactly. Everyone fills out the same forms. Everyone go through the same process.
Yeah. So I appreciate their support and I understand the position that they're in.
Mhm.
And do I think it's perfect? No. I think that we could probably streamline the special event permit process. And that's something that we are working on as far as an HDSA communicating that. But I do appreciate that they're supportive and open and that they have a
Mhm.
process
Yeah.
and that they value community gathering.
Yeah.
That's literally one of the values on council
Mhm.
is that that's something that they want to keep fostering and that's important.
That's what makes the city, feel the way that it does,
Yeah.
right? Like I think we've mentioned it, many of our guests have mentioned it too. It's the people in the city that makes it what we love,
100%.
right? It's not just the buildings, it's
Mhm.
not just the roads, although thank you for keeping the buildings and the roads working. But yeah, it's the people within it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
people who step up and make these things
Mhm.
happen.
So another thing that we hear a lot about is data.
Yeah. Especially from our
HDSA.
businesses. They ask
Exactly.
a lot of questions about the data.
It's because HDSA asks a lot of questions about the data.
We
So,
ask them for a lot of data points. They're like, why do you need this? Yeah.
and this has been an uptick, I feel like, in recent years that we are actually like having the capacity now to collect data and do something with data.
Yeah.
But so, yeah, what's up with the data?
As a business owner, I am always looking at the numbers of
Mhm.
Top It and how we're doing.
Mhm.
I might have a sense and feel how things are going. My bank account will also reflect that as well. But bank account, those are numbers, right?
Yeah.
So that's hard data for me.
Mhm.
And so I'm always wondering, is this thing that I'm trying out, is this working?
Mhm.
And I can do that for Top It,
Mhm.
but how do we do that as an organization for this space that supports those who live, work, and play? How do we know that we are really achieving our vision, our, our stated goal of creating a community where everybody feels a sense of belonging
Mhm.
and where every business can thrive? How do we know that that is happening? And you mentioned earlier that there are some loud voices out there, and we love those loud voices. And it's important to hear what they have to say. But for every person that speaks, there are 50 others who say nothing,
Mhm.
who just, are in their stores, for example, carrying on, working hard, and we don't hear their voices, but their stories are important. And so how do we know, for example, and I think that how this really started was through our accreditation.
Mm-hmm.
The state asks for certain data that we have to furnish to them every quarter. They want to know how many people have been hired or let go in your district, and what is the investment in the buildings. And so those are two data points that are proxies for if that district is growing or in decline. Um, and so those are helpful, but there's a lot more that's going on than just those two things. And so we started by asking for the impact, the economic impact of events, because we would hear those loud voices saying, "This is great," or "This is horrible." You know, these
The same event
events.
sometimes.
Yeah, same event.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we weren't sure what was really happening.
Mhm.
We knew that for these, 5 people that were freely speaking what their experience was.
Mm-hmm.
And so we started to include that in our surveys. We would ask what the impact of sales was on those event days. And that way we could know, you know, as basically the sponsors of this event,
Mm-hmm.
the hosts of the event space, is this a good thing for those businesses that are hosting it?
Yeah.
And if it's not working, why? And for the first year, I would say it was mostly data gathering and being able to report back the impact of those events. But after a year of data and then tying it to other data that Megan had requested from visitors, essentially, we were able to then marry those two data sets together and understand, okay, this is why this event does really well, and this is why this event doesn't do so well. We learned that events that really attract the whole family are those events that are going to do the best. Whereas events that target just a specific kind of gender or age group
Mm-hmm.
are not going to be super successful on the
Mhm.
business side. They might build community, but they don't build the business
Mm-hmm.
district. And that's, we do exist to serve those who live, work, and play here.
Well, and I think a good element to bring up, and I'm sorry for interrupting, and you might get to
Yeah.
this, but is that the frequency of events has an impact on the businesses because they, especially if it's shutting down a street or making
Mhm.
access to downtown a little bit more difficult. If we were having 2, 3 events a year, having that sort of impact, then maybe it wouldn't be that big of a deal to understand if these are impacting the businesses in a positive or negative way. Any day that impacts sales can be an important day. But if this is happening, especially in a concentrated time,
Yeah.
when we see at the end of end of the second quarter and into the third quarter, that needs to be looked at. We can't just it's fine. We'll have events all the time. And if it
Yeah,
doesn't,
every weekend.
if it's not working out for businesses, it's building community. It's like, no, there has to be a balance of
Mhm.
those things. They're both important and they can be successful together. And that's also information that we can share with the organizers of like, hey, this event is great. These people love it. This audience isn't coming. How can you attract them? And how can we partner with you to make this successful for our businesses as well?
To that point, this year has seen fewer events than 2024. And there's a principle: scarcity drives demand.
Mhm.
And when every weekend has something, you're like, oh, we don't need to go this weekend. We can go next weekend. Last year, there were 2 car shows.
Mhm.
Klahia Days was 2 days long. We know that the impact of Klahia Days on our business community was a positive 6%. So revenue went
For
up
this year?
6% for last year.
For last year.
And then there was a car show on the second day of Klahia Days. And then this year or last year, there was also a September car show.
Mhm.
And the impact on businesses for that second car show was a negative 1%. So not a lot,
Mhm.
But still a loss.
it's
Yeah.
still a loss. Yeah. Especially when you're a small business owner,
Mhm.
every penny counts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not that we have pennies anymore, but every nickel counts.
I have pennies.
So this year, Klahia Days was just 1 day
Mhm.
And no car show.
and no car show on day 2. And the revenue impact of Klahia Days was something like 23%.
Wow.
So it was a better return
Mhm.
for our business community having a 1-day event
Mhm.
than a 2-day event last year.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big deal. And then the car show this year was a plus 26%.
Wow.
Wow.
Scarcity drives demand. So we saw really a positive change year over year. And by looking at those numbers, as Clahaides has wondered, should we have another car show?
Mm-hmm.
The one car show in September, separated from Clahaides, was far more successful
Mm.
Yeah.
for our downtown
Yeah.
than the 2 last year.
Yeah.
And the day of Clahaides was more beneficial as well.
Far more beneficial.
That's awesome that we are able to see evidence of that because one thing to tie back to an earlier point is that it takes resources to put on every single one
Yeah.
of
It
these
does.
events and the volunteers and
It's
closing
hard.
down streets and the city and everyone's involved, right? I know that from running the wine walk, we did a similar thing. We used to have 5 wine walks a year, and we dropped it down a couple years ago to only 3. And we were able to, or the attendance when we had 5 was good, but we were able to have great and selling out of 3 events instead of good attendance of 5 events. And from a return on investment standpoint, running these wine walks is not nothing. It
Yeah.
takes a lot of
It does.
hard work to put it on. So that's another element that I think having this data really can help support is that what is the ROI? If it takes this many volunteers, this many resources, and us in HDSA and the city to put something on, and the return is -1
Yeah.
versus consolidating and having a higher return. So I love that you have the data now for it, and we can actually make decisions like off of it.
It maximizes everybody's return, the
Mhm.
time that they put in.
Yeah.
And so planning one excellent car show was far better for all of those people that came down to make it happen,
Yeah.
all the people in the cars. Also, by working with the event organizers, we were able to say, hey, can you do something about this year's car show to bring to encourage the whole family to come?
Mhm.
And they did that. They kept that in mind. And we saw, through the numbers, a better return. So data, it matters.
Mhm.
Collecting data, analyzing data, telling that story, it helps. So events is one thing. And then we also have expanded the data set to look at the dollar impact of events. So we know that the 2 events for Q3 brought in what we estimate to be about $160,000 into the pockets of downtown business owners.
And that's an additional revenue.
Yeah, that they would not have received otherwise.
Wow.
And so we're grateful for these events, and they help us all.
Yeah.
We also looked at hiring. How many employees we have here? Roughly 2,000 employees. Part-time and full-time employees work within our district.
Wasn't it
Dang.
1,000?
Oh yeah, it was 1,000. So yeah, 1,000 employees, roughly 20% of what we estimated
Yeah.
to be the city's workforce,
Mhm.
are employed within these few blocks
Mhm.
of the historic downtown district. And
The salary was the number that completely blew me away.
do you remember what it was?
It was $30 million. I
What?
was like, that's not right.
In the 1,000 employees that are employed.
Yeah.
Because we were also able to collect average salaries.
Mhm.
And so by doing that and looking at our businesses, we were able to understand what the financial impact of our downtown is on our community.
Wow.
And so that's where we're like, boy, we're not just the heart and soul, we're really the backbone
Mhm.
of Snohomish. And it's through the graciousness of our business owners and those residents who take our surveys that we're able to understand
Mhm.
what we are,
Yeah.
Mhm.
who we are,
Yeah.
and the impact that we're having on our community. So data, it equalizes all voices, allows everybody to tell their story in a consistent manner. And it's data that we appreciate, and it's now anonymous. And so
Yeah.
we are able to protect, the sources
Yeah.
that give it.
Yeah. And one thing that I've appreciated about it too is that it not only tells the story of downtown, but it really helps us direct our work in the most meaningful and impactful ways. And I think that's something that we were lacking before you came on board. Like there were some things that I knew and there was some information that I was collecting. and or things that I wanted to know. But expanding that to kind of get this bigger picture really helps us to set intentional work plans. And, because we're limited resources, like what you were saying,
Prioritize.
yeah, having the greatest impact with what you can do with the resources you have is really important when they're limited. So I really appreciated that change that we've made at HDSA, and it's really fueling really great work.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
As a consumer, I also love when you guys put on social media the little facts.
Yeah.
I think it's been great to even the stuff that I'm not, involved in HDSA, to just step back and be like, whoa, what? Those numbers are crazy.
Yeah.
So,
And that's actually a cool example too. Katie, our programs manager right now, she found a volunteer who loves just interpreting data into graphics and like digestible information.
Yeah.
And so a volunteer built all that
Wow.
based off of our information we gave her. So that was really fun too.
They look great, and it's just the right amount of data that, you can scroll through and be like, huh, I'm going to store that in the back of my mind.
And she did that. I did want to ask a little bit, Sheila, you talked about Wine Walk a bit and the data. And one thing that I think is really funny at the wine walks is kind of like what I was saying with the car shows. Like I wouldn't have known that the chamber did the car show.
Yeah.
Many people don't know that HDSA does the wine walk.
Yes.
That's one thing that we're like, would you like to donate to HDSA today? Like, what's that?
Yeah.
Oh, we're your hosts tonight. So do you want to tell us just briefly, what is the wine walk and why do we have it?
Okay. So the wine walk, it is a super fun event where we partner and place local Washington wineries in these stores within our historic district. So it's a great partnership opportunity for wineries and the business owners. And then for the participants, they get to taste a whole bunch of local wines while shopping around our great district. You come in, you pay an admission ticket. You can taste 10 wines right now. And you go around and just have a good time, and you shop, and you're supporting so many local businesses at the same time, the wineries and also the businesses here downtown. And you just have a fantastic time. And it is a fundraiser for HDSA. It's actually
really
one
our
of
only fundraiser. Yeah.
Oh man, so many things that I could say about the wine walk. But yeah, we, for the longest time, I feel like it's kind of like a marketing thing, right? Our names weren't really predominantly on the materials. And when we post, advertisements in our social media, I mean, even our social media,
Well, I think people focus in on the wine walk.
yeah, like they just don't correlate it.
Yeah.
But
Which is
even
normal
our
human
name,
behavior.
on Instagram is SnohoDowntown.
Yeah.
And now we have our logo as the picture, which is an improvement. But previously, you wouldn't even know that SnohoDowntown was actually the Historic Downtown Snohomish Association. So we've been trying to do better with the marketing of it. Now we put on everything that, hey, your fun and your drinking and you having a good time is actually doing good because this is a fundraiser for HDSA.
Yeah, and it's a really impactful one because we don't really, we have some donations that we take in. We use the MST-CIP. We apply for grants. There's all sorts of different ways that we're bringing money in.
Yeah.
But an actual fundraiser, this is really one of the only opportunities to just do that through, something that's fun to do downtown. But I really love that it simultaneously is benefiting local wineries, but our businesses, we're all benefiting through this one thing. So it's not just like HDSA hosted this thing, you come to this thing in this one location, and any money that's generated is only supporting us.
Yeah.
We need money and we're grateful to be able to do fundraisers. But really the essence of HDSA is always supporting the downtown.
Yep.
So doing a fun event that takes place down here, takes place in the shops, brings families and friends out to hang out together is I just love that it kind of encompasses all of those things. It's very appropriate that that's our one fundraiser.
And it's surprising how many people it brings into the downtown. So typically we have between 350 to 450 participants in each walk. And a lot of them, this is their first time in downtown Snohomish.
Oh, so it's rotating through new people.
Yes. Because I like to ask whenever I check people in, that's like, oh, have you walked with us before? Or have you been here before? And a lot of them are like, no, this is my first time. And we're like, well, no better way to introduce downtown Snohomish than to have you literally have to walk the entire footprint of the historic downtown business district.
So true.
Yeah, we get a lot of return customers, and we hear from the business owners that, hey, the people that come here for the first time during the wine walk, they will return. They become return customers. So it's a great way to attract new demographics that we don't have before, or people who don't know that Snohomish even exists. Which a lot of people who live in the Puget Sound area still don't know that Snohomish exists. So
and they're missing out.
Exactly.
Yeah, I appreciate too. One thing that we've started doing more intentionally is preparing people, the businesses, to have the most successful wine walk they can possibly have. So we've been giving them tips. We've asked other stores that kill it every time, always do such a great job. What is it that you're doing? What's making this most successful? So it's not just the promotion and the execution of a really good event, but also preparing the businesses, because if they're doing well and they're providing a great experience, the visitors are also having a great time, and then they're going to come back again. They remember that experience that they had in your shop. We want to make sure that that's beneficial for both parties. So,
and I just love the community building that happens between the attendees too. We have so many people come through that are celebrating things. They go to the wine walk.
The birthdays.
Yeah, for a birthday. Yeah. Like we've had whole offices come to the wine walk where they're just celebrating things. Bachelorette parties is also really, really fun when they come through. And people will meet each other, because usually when you walk through the stores, you just bump into the same people over and over again. And even they become friends with each other.
That's nice.
So it's a lovely event to have the honor to host.
Well, thank you. You're doing such a great job.
Not a problem.
With them.
You're welcome.
We appreciate you.
So speaking of events, one of the questions that has come in is, when is the lighted car parade?
If I had $1 for every time I answer that question. Yeah. I do appreciate that people come to us and ask. I mean, they're at least identifying, hey, this happens downtown. HDSA must be the person to ask. Thank you for finding us and assuming that. That's great. We don't do this event. It's not our event. It actually isn't anybody's event. This event just happens. Now, there's enough planning that goes behind it, because obviously it's orchestrated every year. Yes. And so there is.
And people show up on the same day.
They show up on the same day, magically around the same time. They seem to have a route. Now, this is just what I don't own the event. I haven't communicated with anybody who officially owns it, but traditionally it happens the Saturday before Christmas. So like last year, that was also on the solstice, which is when we had the solstice walk, which will always be on December 21st, because that's the solstice.
Because Mother Nature determines that one.
We follow her schedule. But the lighted car parade will rotate dates to match the Saturday before Christmas, as long as it's been going on for the past several years. And this is all just like, other people had to inform me about this. I'm like, what is this happening down here? Who's doing this? So I had to ask all the questions myself. It typically starts around like 5 o'clock, and they just kind of do some laps until they're done.
Yeah, I remember when I first bought the yogurt shop, it was early December, and all of a sudden I'm down, I'm just working the shop. There's nobody in because it's like late. And then just all of these cars going down the street. I'd never seen this before in my life.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was awesome.
I think that's how everybody discovers it, or someone tells you about it, which actually is so great. And it's very Snohomish, so I do love that. But yeah, we don't own it. We have no say in how it goes. We don't get to determine anything about it. It happens, and that's all we know.
And sometimes it's nice, as we do host a lot of things for the town, for us to not host something and we can just be participants. So we can be Kens, just sitting in the stores and watching and enjoying the cars.
I walk down from my house every year and we watch it, except for last year because I was helping with the solstice walk. But yeah.
Well, another juicy topic that always comes around when we are talking about the downtown district.
Sure.
I'm going to say the bad P word here.
Oh, no.
What about parking?
Oh, no, Sheila. Don't do it.
What is the plan?
Yeah. So I wish that I had all of the answers regarding parking.
Everybody does.
Yeah.
Whoever that person is that can come in and wave their wand and the parking problem is solved. We welcome you to Snohomish.
Sounds like a great superhero kind of a movie.
Yeah.
if I had a superpower, what would it be? It would be to create parking.
Parking
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. I want to say that our position has always been around a process, not for a specific outcome.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't know what the solution is for parking.
We don't, but
we would have offered it by now.
we do believe that there are smart people who are experts and that can represent the different stakeholders that can come together and find good solutions. And so earlier this year, there were proposals around parallel parking.
Double P's.
Double P's.
Extra bad.
Exactly. We really needed a superhero then. And again, our position on that was about process. Because our real goal is a vibrant, thriving downtown where every business can succeed, more than succeed, where they can thrive and where every person feels a sense of belonging. That is what it is that we're trying to create. And of course, in order to create that, we do need to have solutions to parking. And so, Megan, you had been, advocating for really a community council to come together as part of this First Street Master Plan, which after I would say the parallel parking
predicament.
Yeah, it was more than a predicament. Like, it was really
That
painful.
flows off the tongue so much better.
Yeah.
The painful parallel parking
Yeah.
predicament.
It was a really
That was hard.
hard time.
I wasn't even there for that meeting, and I could sense from wherever I was, Rosalind watching.
Yeah.
That wasn't going
She felt a disturbance in the force.
Yeah. Are you okay?
Yeah. Megan actually called me, like, how did it go? I'm like, I don't know that I can talk about it.
Yeah.
So we have been advocating for a process. Megan had been advocating for that even before that meeting. And it became obvious to the city after that that really they were moving too fast, that this needed to go slower, and that they needed to get input. And so we're very grateful that has happened. And there's an excellent.
Seriously. I mean, like, I think we need to emphasize there's administrations that wouldn't have done that.
Yeah, they would have plowed through.
Yeah. So
And just not listened.
did it go a little too far? Yeah, I agree that it did. There could have been intervention sooner, but I do really appreciate that they listened and shifted. And I think there needs to just be credit given there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. I'm very grateful that they did.
Can you imagine if they didn't?
I can imagine, actually. And we would have had to have gotten more involved because, again,
Yeah.
our position is process to find solutions to create a vibrant, thriving downtown for the long term.
And to add another P word in there, a platform,
Yeah.
a place for, gosh, everything starts with a P, for people to come together to, like, this is the place that we're giving you to, everybody's going to be in the same room and you can say what you want to say, give feedback, receive feedback if you're the city.
Yeah. And so I'm not an expert in city planning, but I do believe that there are people who are. And the city has formed this community advisory council. We have wonderful representation from business owners and the HDSA on that committee, as well as residents and other experts, and city staff, all of whom have really important perspectives on this. I've attended every one of those meetings, and I would say that currently what the position that I see solidifying is that really what is on First Street is the best parking configuration right now with this angled parking. It's possible that they can keep this parking configuration and still widen the sidewalks. That's something that they're discussing right now. So they wouldn't take away anything, but they could actually give some space, which is important for the types of visitors that we have downtown and the many sidewalk cafes that we have in front of restaurants, as well as the clothing racks that are in front of stores. So keeping First Street the way that it is from a parking perspective is probably the best solution. But turning two of the side streets into one-way streets can add about between 40 and 50 new parking spots to the core of downtown.
That's a lot.
So that is the reason why something would be proposed.
Yeah, exactly. There's a great benefit,
Mm-hmm.
especially to those businesses on the side streets, that
Mhm.
they can have 40 to 50 more people parking in front of their business.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
And then paving and really taking advantage of First Street west of D.
Mm-hmm.
So they can add close to 100 parking spaces there.
Yeah.
So those are the current kind of ideas that seem to benefit the most and take away really the least
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying these are ideas being discussed in the committee,
in the committee.
not plans
Correct.
that are like written up or like these are things we're acting on. It's more of like, let's test these
Yeah.
concepts in discussion. What would we be gaining? Let's get feedback, I'm assuming.
Yes. Yeah, the city is going to those businesses and collecting feedback. We've heard from some businesses that they're like, the city has not come to us.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be that they've come by and they weren't there, or it could be that they haven't made it there.
And then we can give that back to them and say, hey,
This is an opportunity. No one needs to wait for the city as well.
Mm-hmm.
There is
yeah, that's a great point.
a website that's just dedicated to the First Street Master Plan. You can go, you can submit your feedback and be like, no, I don't like this idea.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, we are a funnel. We do not have the solutions. We have a vision for what this downtown should look like, and we need this process to work. And that process is not just the people at the committee, it's also the people who are impacted by this decision. And so we want to advocate on their behalf and make sure that their voices are heard as well. And so that's something that is important to us. But in the meantime, as I mentioned earlier, we can make a difference in parking right now
Yeah.
as businesses, as well as just visitors.
Mm-hmm.
If I can't park right in front of the business that I want to go to, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
There is parking in our downtown. It might mean that I have to walk 3 blocks,
Mm-hmm.
but on a summer day or on a day where it's not raining, that is very doable.
Yeah.
And this summer we did a parking challenge. We had 13 different businesses who voluntarily agreed to park outside of our district, essentially, not park in front of businesses, not
Mhm.
park on First Street. And it was really just the summer weeks, summer months. And over that course of time, we saved over 4,000 parking spaces
Yeah.
within our
I
district.
forgot that it was that high.
It was
Mhm.
awesome. It was so surprising, that 13 businesses could make that big of a
Mhm.
difference. And so we're going to continue to advocate for really a little bit of self-sacrifice,
Mhm.
that we all can make a difference by just making a choice to walk
Yeah.
a little bit
Yeah.
to where we work.
Thank you for initiating that parking challenge.
Yeah,
Mhm.
That's a big impact.
it was fun.
And you get to have your steps in, right?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. At my age, whatever physical activity I get is important.
Right. It's good for all of us.
There's only one question left. We got through all of them. But this was a question that we actually got just recently.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody asked, and I thought that's a great question because perception is reality.
Mm-hmm.
The question was, does HDSA pick and choose which businesses, partners, or volunteers that it works with
That is a good question.
or promote?
And I'm grateful for whoever it was that asked that question. And I first want to answer by saying that we are so grateful for any person or business that wants to partner with us in creating the downtown that we envision, this thriving community where every business can succeed and every person can feel a sense of belonging. So if there are people who want to volunteer here, I have never heard of us ever turning anybody
Never.
away. We have so much work to do.
Mm-hmm.
We would love the help. And so anybody that chooses us to volunteer with and to work with, we're grateful to them. And the same goes with businesses. And I would say that from a partnership perspective, it's really not us picking and choosing, because it's not like we're this like, oh, we only need, these businesses to partner with us because we're so successful. I only want the Rep and the Oxford and the Snohomish Pie Company.
Oh, places with food.
Yeah, that's right. No, so like every business is equally important. And we want to partner with 100% of the businesses downtown.
Yeah.
And so who it is that we partner with and promote really depends on them.
Yeah.
It's those businesses who choose us as their partner to promote their business. And that is through a couple of different tiers of membership. And Megan, you're better enabled to do this than I am. But, depending on what it is that you sign up for, that kind of determines the partnership level.
Yeah. And the membership is open to everybody downtown. So just like, and even residents, visitors, everybody can be a member of HDSA. Business members, that's the one area where we offer additional tiers. And that's based off of if you value more advertising, if you want to be in our newsletter, you want to do special featured reels, things like that are more targeted to, I want to have this extra audience. I want to create a reel with HDSA and be a collaborator. Like those are things that we've built into the higher tiers. But being a member means that you are welcome to all of the member meetings. You're included in all of our internal communications lines. We are invited to participate in all of our events. Some of them have an additional fee depending on like what the
perk that you get out of it
products
is.
are that you're getting. But participation is essentially free. There's a $5 registration fee, which I'm actually going to get rid of because I was like, why is it even there? But just being downtown means that you are welcome to be a member. I think some of the areas where people feel, and you kind of touched on it a little bit of like that we're picking and choosing is sometimes if you're not showing us what it is that you want us to share, we're either left guessing or we just don't know. Like a lot of this comes through, social media algorithms, and we follow every business that's registered with us, everybody that we know about. And if Instagram and Facebook want to show you those things, then we can reshare it. But the best way is to tag us in it because then we'll see it. And Katie is doing a really great job at kind of putting all those things together when it makes even more sense for the audience. So if there's something happening, like right now, she just did a bunch of reshares about the holiday open house. So she'll see that you did a reel or something, and then she'll save it, and then she'll put everything out there in kind of this nice compilation so that when you're the audience member receiving that, it's having an even greater impact. So we have strategy behind that. But if you didn't tag us in it, it's up to the fates of, the gods of Instagram if we're going to see it. The other thing is just like through sponsorships and things like that. Like we have sponsorship maps. And we actually realized from some feedback that we got from a business owner that we had a sponsorship map for one event, but not another. And in my mind, it had been like, oh, well, that was because the volunteer in that group created the sponsor map, but that is an inconsistency in HDSA. We should have that all the time. And so we're implementing that for the first time this year for the event that didn't have it before. So that's if you're sponsoring something, you'll be featured as a sponsor, but that's also separate from membership. And again, it reflects back to how are you participating? If you're participating in a way where we're featuring, that level of engagement, it might look different from one to the next. So put all those together. If you're a member, you're a higher tier member, so you have a lot more advertising benefits and you're sponsoring stuff, you're going to see that business a lot because they're involved in everything. So you're going to see a lot of that logo.
They chose us.
Yeah.
We didn't choose them. They chose us as their partner to promote their business. And also, they chose us as a way to support their own community. And so it is something that goes, both ways.
Yeah.
We want to promote and support every business. And I liked what you said about social media, making sure that we just tag you and, to reshare it. I never do that, and I really should.
But it is really a two-way street because I think HDSA does a really good job in making things like equal opportunity, right?
Yeah.
We blast things through email, we blast things through our newsletters and things like that to make sure that everyone knows what's going on to the best of our ability. Not saying we're perfect.
Ambassadors that come by
exactly.
and hand out postcards.
Exactly.
We're trying to get all the touch points.
Yeah.
But it is the feedback, right, that we get of like you guys signing up for participating in events like the holiday open house, signing up to be a spot during the wine walk, for example. Like, we would not know that you are interested in participating unless you give us a signal that, like, hey, I would like to participate.
Yeah,
and sometimes
respond to the things that
exactly.
we're putting out there.
And sometimes it's as simple as ensuring that we have your most current contact information
Mhm.
and reading our emails.
Yeah.
Because I feel like we transmit a lot because there's just so much,
Yeah,
you
that's
know.
true.
But opening our emails, ensuring that, if you're like, oh, I haven't heard from HDSA in like a couple months, that is odd. Let me check my spam folder and make sure that I'm not, accidentally blocking them. It happens, sometimes the spam filter gods don't give us good graces.
You mentioned businesses, and then I kind of emphasized the membership part. But the question had asked about volunteers. But what about other like community partners or the city? Are we picking choosing there? Or is that, how would you like to explain that part of the question?
Well, let me answer that after this. For those businesses that can't engage, and I was one of those. Megan had asked me to volunteer on the board a couple years ago, and I was just at a stage of my life where I had to say no.
Yeah.
You made me ask twice.
But I did say
I kept
yes.
coming back.
Persistence is key.
And so, I understand, and I think we all understand that business owners are super busy.
Totally.
And there's a stage in life for everything. Life gives those opportunities when you're able. And so we don't harbor like
resentment.
Yeah. Because
obviously I keep coming back.
She will find you. So, whatever a business owner can do, we're grateful for that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And, if business is such that, these higher level, membership levels don't make sense, then that's also fine. We do have data to support good return on investment for the highest tier membership level. Those wine walks, I think on average return 46%, which more than covers the fee for that highest membership level. And so it'll pay you back. Membership will pay you back.
And those higher tiers, I should just kind of reiterate that those are all advertising options. So it's really like it's part of your marketing package if you choose to participate that way.
And our team will work with you. Like, you paid for this. We want to make sure that you get this.
Yeah.
And so that's important to us. And I'll also say that if you don't do any of that, we still market downtown Snohomish.
Yeah.
I don't know how many thousands of followers we have on social media.
The Instagram is at like 8,400, and there's
That's a lot.
14,000 on Facebook.
Okay.
Those are followers. Our reach, Katie and I were actually just looking at this, was incredibly impressive. She was like, is that right?
What was the number?
It was like, just for a few days that we looked at, it was like over 52,000 impressions and views just over a few days. And then I don't actually remember this part because we didn't get a chance to go into it, but she was pulling May through now to kind of give a
broader
look
view
at the growth. And
it grew.
It's some impressive number that I'll share once I know what it is.
Yeah, so, tag us. If that's all you can do, tag us. We can reshare. But we're actively promoting through media partnerships that we have our entire downtown. And so by promoting downtown Snohomish, we're bringing people here to our community, and your excellent business is what's bringing them back again.
Yeah.
So we appreciate business owners just doing a great job at what they're doing.
You're giving us something to promote.
Yeah, for sure. We have the best. We have the best downtown anywhere around.
Says every Main Streeter.
We do.
Ken's going to find the data to back that up.
Yeah.
And we actually are looking at that data right now, comparing us to other downtown communities. And so I just wanted to say that we don't pick and choose. You choose us as your partner, and we're happy to promote you in any way that we can. And if there's no space for any of that, we're still promoting downtown Snohomish. And then as far as picking and choosing nonprofit partners, we have met with every nonprofit that touches our downtown. And we meet with them, it'll be annually now, to just understand what their priorities are and how we can support them in the things that they're doing that touch the downtown, whether it's the car show, whether it's, well, I can't actually think of any of them at the moment. Playa Days. I'm trying to think of what the Lions Club did with, I think that it was just their work with the Playa Days as well. But we meet with them. We meet with all of them. Snohomish art community and how it is that we can promote the art walk and the studio tour. Really, we want to be active in our downtown period. And that's what's interesting about the HDSA versus, any one of these other nonprofits is that they are focused on their mission. We're focused on our downtown, which encompasses all of those missions. And so if you want to volunteer for an organization that has an outsized reach and impact, that's us.
Yeah.
Because we're supporting all of them in their work as well to be successful. So we don't pick and choose. We want every one of them to be as successful as they can be.
Yeah. Wow, we covered a lot.
Yeah, and that is a great message to wrap this up on. It has been, like Ken highlighted in the beginning, such a great 2025.
It has.
And we cannot wait to see what 2026 has in store.
So many things on our work plans. And so I think closing it up, it's that we would love for you to pick and choose HDSA. And there's so many ways that you can be activated this year.
Yeah.
And things to be excited about. So I hope these questions were helpful. It was actually kind of fun to think about all the things that we've been asked and go through previous emails and all of our Wix contacts and things that we get from business owners and
take a step back, like we're so in the weeds of it all the time. But it's good to remember, why we're here and recognize the work that's been done.
Absolutely.
You're here.
Well, with that,
we're done.
I guess we're done.
Happy New Year.
Snohomish Storytellers, brought to you by the Historic Downtown Snohomish Association, produced by Red Trucks.